That was loud. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so I got people asking about Babylon. This is actually a video I've been working on for a little while. Haven't had a chance to knock it out. I'm going to knock it out now because I got somebody asking questions or in a discussion about who Babylon is. This has been argued nonstop. Who's Babylon? Who's Babylon? Who's Babylon? And a bunch of people, America is Babylon. No, that's incorrect. America is not Babylon. One point, or I'm going to make 2 points before we start. 1 point, who is the tribulation focused on? Israel, right? What does it say about Babylon in the book of Revelations? We're going to see that. 2, what part does America play in any of this? America cannot be Babylon. It's impossible for it to be Babylon. And as you're going to see in all these scriptures we're going to cover here, we're not going to cover all of them, there's a couple hundred of them. As you're going to see in these scriptures here, the entire referencing of Babylon is associated with Israel. All the way to the New Testament. And there's a bunch of it in the Old Testament. And it's always in relation to Israel. Where did they come from? During the first temple time period, when they were overthrown and that temple was destroyed, where did God send them? You're going to see it in the scriptures. Send them to Babylon. When they came back, was it like 400 and something BC? Something like that. And they built a second temple. Where did they come from? They didn't come from all corners of the earth. They came from Babylon, which is in Iraq, and brought all that stuff with them. So all that stuff that was in Babylon, they brought with them back to Israel. And then the second temple was destroyed, and they were cast out. Where did they all come from after that? Most of them came from right around that Middle Eastern region, including Old Babylon, Iraq. There's still some Jews over in Iraq. So, let's prove this. We're not just going to take it on conjecture, because the names of towns and a population of people, that's not an indicator of who Babylon is. And the question was brought up, well, who sits on many waters? Israel doesn't. They're on one ocean. America sits on many waters. That's not what that term means. Many waters means many peoples. America is America, Canada, and Mexico. Everybody's speaking English and Spanish. But where is Israel sitting? Right in the middle of a ton of different peoples and nations. Many waters. So you got to look at the terminology and what the terminology is referring to. So we're going to start out in 2 Kings, and I'm going to try to keep this fairly short. I had some complaints on 2-hour-long videos, but you know what? You can't cover everything in 5 minutes. Sorry, that's just the way it is. If you want to know the truth, you got to dig deep into it, and it takes a while. What took y'all 2 hours in that video about the pre-trib rapture took me 3, 4, 5.5 hours. So you got off easy in the watching. Actually, if you count all the research I put into it, there was actually a week and a half of research put into that. So you got off easy only having to see a 2-hour video. And the king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Cutha, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the people of Israel. And they took possession of Samaria and lived in its cities. Babylon, Israel, and Israel. Here's the relation. 2 Kings 17:30. The men of Babylon made Sukkoth, Benoth, and the men made Cuth of Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima. These are different gods. Babylon and Israel. 2 Kings. And 2 Kings was the time frame when they were coming back to Israel. Right around that same time. I think the book of Ezra talks more detail about it when they were building the second temple. At that time, in 2 Kings 20:12, Merodach, Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent envoys with letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he heard that Hezekiah had been sick. That whole story was about, they were dealing with Israel. In 2 Kings 20:14, then Isaiah the prophet came to King Hezekiah and said to him, "What do these men say, and from where did they come to you?" And Hezekiah said, "They have come from a far country, from Babylon." We see very tight links between Babylon and Israel. And it's all through the New Testament, or the Old Testament. 2 Kings 20:17, behold, the days are coming when all that is in your house and that which your fathers have stored up to this day shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left, says the Lord. 20:18, some of your own sons who will come from you, whom you will father, shall be taken away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. Well, did they come to America? No. They went to actual Babylon. It's in Iraq. It's in South Iraq. My fob was like 40 minutes north of there. 1 Kings 24:1, in the days Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. Jehoiakim was a Jew. In 2 Kings 24:7, and the king of Egypt did not come again out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt from the brook of Egypt to the river Euphrates. They were overpowering everybody at that time. Where's Egypt? Right next to Babylon, or right next to Israel. 2 Kings 24:10, at that time the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. There's a huge battle. In fact, one of the fortresses is still there. 2 Kings 24:11, and Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to the city while his servants were besieging it. The links between Israel and Babylon are uncanny, and it's all over. And I'm going to spare you guys. You can go look up these scriptures yourself. I'm going to spare you guys the heavy stuff, but we're going to go down to the important stuff here. So you see, it's all through 2 Kings 24, 25. In 2 Kings 25:21, so Judah was taken into exile out of its land. And you see on and on and on. It's all about Babylon and Israel, Babylon and Israel, Babylon and Israel. On and on and on. Here's Ezra, 2 Chronicles. Babylon and Israel, Babylon and Israel. Book of Ezra really talks a lot about it. Babylon and Israel. There's Nehemiah. These were the people, Nehemiah 7:6, these were the people of the province who came up out of the captivity of those exiles whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried into exile. They returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to his town. They returned from Babylon. This is when they built the second temple. Nehemiah, Esther, the book of Esther, Jews and Israel and Babylon, Israel and Babylon. Psalms. Yeah, here's Psalms. Among those who knew me, I mentioned Rahab and Babylon. Behold, Philistia and Tyre with Cush. This one was born there, they say. On and on and on. Isaiah talks a lot about it. And actually, if you get deep into the book of Isaiah, which I'm planning a playlist on Isaiah, you get deep in the book of Isaiah, it gives you a whole lot of details about this. But I'm trying to keep the video short since people don't seem to like long videos. Some people do, but not. I've got other stuff I need to go knock out, so I'm trying to cut this as short as I can. But you can see all the referencing, and you can go look these references up yourself and prove it to yourself. Isaiah, Babylon and Israel, all through there. Jeremiah, Babylon and Israel, Babylon and Israel. Look, Jeremiah 24. For thus says the Lord, behold, I will make you a terror to yourself and to all your friends. They shall fall by the sword of their enemies while you look on. And I will give all Judah into the hand of the king of Babylon. He shall carry them captive to Babylon and shall strike them down with the sword. Jeremiah, Israel and Babylon, Israel and Babylon. On and on and on. Tons of it in Jeremiah. Look at all that. Israel and Babylon. It's all Israel and Babylon. America is not mentioned one single time in all these scriptures. There's a bunch of it in Jeremiah. Jeremiah, Israel and Babylon. On and on and on. Wow, Jeremiah's got more than 2 Kings does. Jeremiah, it's still in Jeremiah. Israel and Babylon. Israel and Babylon. Still going. Israel and Babylon and Jeremiah. Jeremiah's got a lot, man. Good night. It's still going. Israel and Babylon. Still going, guys. Still going. Holy free holies, Batman. Here it goes, here it goes, here it goes. Let's go a little faster. Let's see if we can get through. So, you know what book you need to go read? Go read Jeremiah. Jeremiah, and still Israel and Babylon. Here is Ezekiel. Got a playlist planned for this one. Ezekiel 12:13, and I will spread my net over him, and he shall be taken in my snare, and I will bring him to Babylon, the land of the Chaldeans. Remember in the book of Jeremiah, there was a lot of mention about the Chaldeans and what was going on there. Yet he shall not see it, and he shall die there. Ezekiel 17:12, say now to the rebellious house. Who's that? Israel. Do you not know what these things mean? Tell them, behold, the king of Babylon came to Jerusalem, and took her king and her princes, and brought them to him to Babylon. It's all about Babylon and Jerusalem. We're in Ezekiel. Ezekiel's got a bunch to say. Now we're in the book of Daniel. Daniel 1:1, literally the first chapter, first verse. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. We have the book of Daniel telling the story. There's a lot in Daniel. Babylon and Israel. Babylon and Israel. The book of Micah. Micah 4:10, writhe and groan, O daughter of Zion. Who's that? Jerusalem. Jerusalem, like a woman in labor, for now you will go out from the city and dwell in the open country. You shall go to Babylon. There you shall be rescued. There the Lord will redeem you from the land of your enemies. When did any Jew set foot on the shores of America? It wasn't until the 30s, 20s or 30s, something like that. Well, maybe even the 1800s. That's a whole long time after this. This was BC, up like 400 or 500 BC. Now we have Zechariah. Zechariah 2:7, up, escape to Zion, you who dwell with the daughter of Babylon. Now we're in New Testament. Look how much there is in New Testament. Almost nothing. Okay. Matthew 1:1, and Josiah, the father of Jeconiah, and his brothers, at the time of the deportation to Babylon, a bunch of Jews going to Babylon. Then Matthew 1:12, after the deportation to Babylon. Matthew 1:17, so all the generations from Abraham to David were 14 generations, and from David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations. That would have been the Second Temple time period, and from the deportation to Babylon to the Christ, 14 generations. Acts 7:43, this goes back to Amos? I think Amos. You took up the tent of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan. I did a video on this way back at the beginning of 2019. The images that you made to worship, and I will send you into exile beyond Babylon. That's where the Star of David came from. All about Israel and Babylon. 1 Peter, she who sat at Babylon, who is likewise chosen, sends you greetings, and so does Mark, my son. Interactions with what? Babylon. Even after they came back into the land, during this second temple time frame, which is when Christ was walking, the apostles and the church was being born, they were still having interactions with Jews that were still in Babylon. Are you convinced yet? Well, let's cover some stuff in the book of Revelations. Revelations 14:8, another angel, a second followed, saying, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who made all nations drink the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality. What is the 7-year tribulation designed specifically for? It's the time of Jacob's trouble. Who's Jacob? Israel. Not America. So, who are they dealing with here? Oh, hold on. Gotta take this one. Guess they didn't want to talk to me after all. Dead air. So, Revelation 16:19, the great city was split into 3 parts, and cities of the nations fell, and God remembered Babylon the Great to make her drain the cup of the wine of the fury of his wrath. Have you seen Babylon in Iraq today? Because that's where the original city was. The original ruins are there. I actually did a video showing aerial shots here a couple months ago. There's nothing there. It's a World Heritage Site. It's a museum. There's nothing there. Just ruins. Nobody lives there. Nothing's going on there. So who is this talking about? This is the book of Revelation, 7-year tribulation, correct? Who is this talking about? Well, it's not talking about the city of Babylon, because the city of Babylon is ruins. So it has to be a city that is doing something and is active. What's the closest one that refers to this? That's completely connected to Babylon throughout the entire Old Testament. Israel. Revelation 17:5, and on her forehead was written a name of mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes. What's going on with the Orthodox Jews? Bringing about the Antichrist? They're going to partake in that with him. Only a third of them are going to be saved in the tribulation. Why? Because the rest of them are going after Satan. Mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. Revelation 18:2, and he called out with a mighty voice, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. Has anybody ever been to Tel Aviv? It's the homosexual and hedonist capital of the world, and it has been for a while. If you're gay or you're hedon into hedonism, you've heard about Tel Aviv. Revelation 18:10, they will stand afar off in fear of her torment. Revelation is talking about the 7-year tribulation, which is Jacob's trouble. It's God's time to deal with Israel. Who's being tormented? Israel. And say, alas, alas, you great city, you mighty city Babylon, for in a single hour your judgment has come. Revelation 18:21, then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, so will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence and will be found no more. And you go back and you read all these in the book of Revelations in context, and you see that every bit of it is centered in that region, not America. I actually meant a much more detailed video on this, but like I said, I wanted to keep it a little shorter. And I want people who disagree with this to do their own work. Go into these scriptures. I showed you, you can go pause and write them all down. Go read all these scriptures, and you can see quite clearly that through the entire Bible, the only other city related to Babylon in any text in the Bible is Israel. America isn't mentioned once. Why would it change at the very end? Hint, it isn't. It's Israel. That's Israel. The 70-nation coalition, the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. I still got to do that video. The beast with 7 heads and 10 horns has a great harlot riding on her. The great harlot, where's she at? Mother of all prostitutes, the great harlot, sits on the back of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Well, I proved, and I'm going to prove it again, and you can read in there, in chapter, I think 20, it actually gives a description of who that is. It's nations. 7 horns, 7 kings, 7 leaders, 7 councils, 10 nations under each, 10 diadems under each of them. That's 10 kings over each of those nations. Israel just had in September 70-nation conference with Israel as the head. You can go look that stuff up. I did videos on it. I'm convinced. I've seen enough evidence to show that that's who that is. And since that time frame isn't about America, it's about Israel, what does that tell us? America doesn't play a part in this. And there's a bunch of people like, that's one of the things that turned me off about Sarah Bradley and her 5 other alter egos. She harps on America being Babylon. You live in Babylon, if that's the case. But I couldn't get her. I linked her to all these scriptures and even other stuff, and I was like, it's not America. It never has been America. America is just going to play their part, and then they're going to get swept to the side, because the tribulation is for Israel. So if this is focused on destroying Babylon and Babylon being punished, and the tribulation is about Israel, Jacob's trouble, being punished, this is a 2 + 2 equation. This is no fractions, no algebra, nothing like that. 2 + 2 equals Israel. So that's who Babylon is. Do your own research. Don't believe me. It's right there on the screen. Go look it up. I love you guys. Bless y'all in Jesus' name, and I'll see you in the next one.